So recording has just started. So good morning, everybody, and thank you for attending. We are going to deliver the seminar 4, which is all about helping young people connect with their accounts. So I am now going to share the screen, hopefully. And I'm hoping that everyone can now see that. And you should be seeing seminar 4, helping young people connect with their accounts presentation page. So before we really get into the nitty-gritty of the content of the seminar, just a little bit of housekeeping, really. So we intend to make this seminar around about 1 hour. That will depend on questions, but that's generally how long they've lasted, maybe just, less than that. It really does depend on the amount of questions, and there is a definite chance to ask questions. Please make use of that, because this is for you to, have your opportunity to learn more about this particular subject or about the Share Foundation. I'll be sharing the screen to go through the presentation. If you do need to leave, we fully understand. Obviously, there's a leave button. So if you do, thank you for coming, but we do understand that you may have other things. If we just ask if people could keep their microphones on mute, just so there's no background noise. Obviously, in terms of questions, you would need to unmute, obviously, if you want to ask a question. But if you choose to, you can put that in the chat, and we will be keeping an eye on the chat. But if not, we will certainly go through the chat at the end. Or you can raise your hands. Certainly, if I get chatting, I will try and have a look out. But I know what I'm like when I get talking. So, Sian will probably give me a shout if someone has raised their hands. So, yeah, we will definitely try to make sure all questions are answered as they need to be. And again, as I said before, we are recording this. If you don't want your video on, that's absolutely fine. So we're going to meet the team first. Sorry, I don't think that's quite showing, but we've got Rena there, Sian and myself. So I'm going to ask Rena if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, please.
Hi, good morning, everybody. As Sue said, my name is Rena Pandit. I work within the CTFSR recovery team alongside with Sian, and we do deal with exactly what the title of the seminar is. We help young people, connect, help them locate their accounts. So we deal with a lot of, paperwork from the local, from the young people, and try and locate the account for them via the information that the LA give us, and also with liaising with HMRC. So we basically, in a nutshell, we just make sure that the young people are, get to know where their account is. And that's me in a nutshell. Thanks, you.
Thanks, Rena. And Sian?
Morning, everyone. My name is Sian. As Rena, my colleague, has just said, we both work in account recovery, and that covers obviously child trust funds, CTF, and then obviously junior ISAs, so the JISAs. So we obviously investigate any queries or where there's mismatches of information. We deal with telephone calls and emails from young people, and from obviously people from the local authority, whether that be the main named contact or also social workers, PAs, support workers. Our day-to-day is literally speaking to people and obviously dealing with their email queries as well. But obviously you'll hear more about what we do shortly.
Lovely. Thank you, Sian. So my name is Sue Parsons. I'm the operations manager for the Share Foundation. I've been with the foundation now for probably 8 years. So yes, I hopefully understand all the operations around it. And my sort of main duty really is to make sure the day-to-day activities of the organisation are delivered in the way that we would want them to. And I work very closely with the team, great team to do that. So the topics we're going to cover today is an introduction to the Share Foundation. So you've got a bit of background about us, an overview on actually helping young people connect with their accounts. So that will give some wording that we use, that overview, just so that it sort of makes sense. And when we talk about some of the things we do in the letters, etc. We'll talk about the letters that we issue to the local authorities and healthcare trusts. We'll talk about understanding the different links that you may see in these letters, and they are very unique to that young person. So not to be sort of used and thought, oh, I'll use this as a template. Each letter is unique to that young person, depending on the type of account that they have. The process for the young people actually locating their account, the process for them claiming it, and things to be aware of. And then we will have some questions and further discussion at the end. So the Share Foundation, we are a charity established 2005. We were a registered charity operating at that time. We were raising additional contributions for child trust funds for young people in the local area. Now, the Share Foundation are actually all of our costs, all of our administration costs are under the contract of the Department for Education. So we are contracted by the DfE to undertake the work that we do for administering the Junior ISA and Child Trust Fund schemes. So we use no monies that come into the Share Foundation in terms of contributions to pay for the admin. I really want to make that clear because a lot of charities obviously do that. So all our costs are covered by the government and by a philanthropist. And when people are making contributions to these young people's accounts, 100% does go to those young people. In 2012, we were awarded the government contract to set up and administer the Junior ISA schemes for young people in care. So what happened was the Child Trust Fund scheme ended. That ended in January 2011. And that really meant that no longer were the government's giving money for long-term savings schemes for young people. And our concern was young people in care. So we, together with Barnardo's and Action for Children, lobbied the government to say, hey, okay, you've stopped the Child Trust Fund, but what about, what about young people in care? What about long-term savings for young people in care? So they introduced the Junior ISA, and they introduced the Junior ISA scheme for young people in care. Then in 2017, our contract widened to actually then take on the Child Trust Funds as well. So administering the Child Trust Funds for young people in care, where the local authority or trust advise there is no one in a position of parental responsibility. So that actually means that maybe I'll just give you a background on the Child Trust Funds for anyone who doesn't know. They were a government scheme for all young people born in the UK, where someone was claiming child benefit for them, where they were born on the 1st of September 2002 and up to and including the 2nd of January 2011. So any of your young people who were born in those years, born in the UK, potentially could have a Child Trust Fund. Now, the position of parental responsibility, well, what we're saying here is that because the Child Trust Fund was actually done through the child benefit scheme, so someone would have got a voucher, and that voucher would have been to open a child trust fund in the name of the young person for that young person. So that it was really opened at birth rather than the Junior ISAs where we open them when they're advised to us by the local authority through the data submission. So that is quite a big difference. So anyone born in those Child Trust Fund years and has a Child Trust Fund, it was opened around about the time they were born. So when the local authority or trust submit their data to us, the first thing we're looking at is that date of birth. Does the young person need us to open up a Junior ISA, or have they got a Child Trust Fund? For the ones that were born in the Child Trust Fund years, we would then go to the local authority to say, okay, so is there anybody already managing this account? Is there anybody already in a position of parental responsibility and you deem that person to be managing that account effectively? If they come back to say yes, then the Share Foundation do no more. So we don't know where that account is, and we don't need to know because the local authority or trust have advised that they're happy with how things are. However, if they come back to say no, we then need to go to the HMRC to obtain the child trust fund information. So that will be the URN and the account provider. And then we go to the account provider to advise that we will be becoming the registered contact until such time as anything changes. So that's sort of what we're meaning about if there's someone in a parental responsibility, because the child trust funds were historical and set up around the young person, around the time the young person was born. There could have been somebody else already managing that account. In 2023, our contract with the Department for Education was renewed. Now I will just quickly chat through, because I've probably covered a lot of this. So the Junior ISA and Child Trust Funds are both long-term savings accounts set up by the government. They can be for children under 18. Child Trust Fund scheme, as mentioned, closed on the 2nd of January 2011. And this is when the Junior ISA scheme came in for young people in care. The Share Foundation can only manage child trust funds where the local authority or trust confirms there's no one in a position of parental responsibility. So for anyone who wants to contribute to any of these accounts, that is one of the first things they probably need to realise is, are the Share Foundation the registered contact? Because if we're not, we're obviously not able to put any money in there because we won't have the account. Any accounts, just to mention, any accounts or all accounts that the Share Foundation have opened or been responsible for as the registered contact will appear on your quarterly valuation reports. So if they're not on there, it may mean that there's a timing issue. It may mean that you've already told us there's a responsible adult, or that you haven't told us anything, so we haven't got the account yet. So it's always worth checking if you've got any reasons why, thinking why would they not be appearing on there, and you would have expected them to, then just chat with your Share Foundation LA representative. I'm just going to say the valuation report seminar is seminar 6. So if anyone's interested in a bit more information on that, then do register for seminar 6. And regarding these accounts, anyone can contribute to an account. So the overview, web applications. So we've introduced web applications where young people can use a link to start the process of locating their account. There are 3 links, and we'll go through those later on. We mentioned the account provider a lot. So when we have a match and we find that maybe we've been able to match to the account provider, that basically means it's the financial organisation that actually hold the account. I mean, we do have a lot of young people and queries from local authorities, fostering agencies, foster carers, saying, oh, you've got the account. And in actual fact, the Share Foundation haven't, because we're administrative charity. We're not a financial education. So we don't actually hold the account. We may open it, or we may be the registered contact for it, but the account sits with an account provider. The account holder is obviously the young person. Taking control of the account actually means that every young person has a legal right to take control of their Junior ISA or Child Trust Fund at the age of 16 if they want to. That actually means that they can receive the statements. They actually act as a registered contact, obviously, on that account as the account holder, and they can make investment decisions. They can transfer that account. They cannot claim the money. They can't claim the money until they're 18. And this is why where Sam, I think we were talking earlier about the financial education, the importance of starting that financial education early so that they are aware, and they can then become aware at 16 if they want to of their account, because we'll send a letter at that age. And then hopefully by the time they're 18 and they get that money, that a lot of them will be already equipped with some financial education knowledge. If a young person in care does move the account because they decided to take control, then obviously the Share Foundation would not be able to make contributions because we wouldn't know where the account was. So if it stays where it is, that's fine. We can continue to administer contributions to it. A young person cannot have both a child trust fund and a junior ISA. It is one or the other. We do have calls or receive emails. No, my social worker told me, I know I've got a child trust fund. I've already claimed that, but I've definitely got a junior ISA because I've been in care. But actually, no, they can only have one or the other. So just to be aware of that. The timescales that we provide are a guide. Often we have investigations. We think, oh, actually, this one looks like this one, but we need to do some more investigation. So we won't match unless we're sure. So we sometimes have to go through a little bit of a journey to actually match. So the timescales may not fit the timescales that people would like, but we do try to set those expectations. The role of the Share Foundation is really to make sure the account holder, young person, account provider, financial organisation, that they both connect with each other. So that's our role really, is to make sure they connect. In terms of actually then claiming the account, the young person would need to go directly to the account provider to do all the things that they want them to do, i.e. ID, etc. So that's just to be aware of that. I mean, we can help in certain situations. And I have to say, we've got some great relationships with most of the local authorities, especially the junior ISA ones, because we work so closely with them. So, sorry, account providers. We've got good relationships with the account providers. And yeah, so we might be able to intervene where young people are having some problems. There's a guide for the LA trusts, LAs and trusts, how young people and care leavers can locate their account. It's a step-by-step guide, but is currently under review. So I won't promise that we're going to send that immediately, but we can certainly send it when it is complete, because there have been some changes to our processes. We can also provide you with a list of the young people who have completed the process to date. So we actually can produce a report on that. But we have started to include that information anyway on your quarterly valuation report. I'm very aware that there are fostering agencies here. A lot of the information, obviously, we can only share with our named contacts at the local authorities. So we do need to then send you, if you need any specific information, to those named contacts, because we aren't able to share any other information apart from the local authority contacts. So sorry about that, but obviously that's all data protection. Child trust fund providers do not all advise when a young person has taken control of an account. So it may remain on the valuation report even if it's claimed. We're asking here if any of the local authorities or trust or anybody knows a young person has definitely claimed their account, let us know and we can update our records. But unfortunately, there's so many child trust fund providers that they can't just keep telling us when someone's claimed their account. They just don't have the resource to do that, nor the certain processes. But with junior ISAs, normally the valuations will be very clear. They keep us updated on a quarterly basis with a zero value if they have actually claimed the account. So I am going to stop now, and you are going to now be passed over to Sian, who's going to talk about a bit more about the processes. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. So, letters issued to the local authority or healthcare trusts. Now, letters from the Share Foundation are sent to our main named contacts at the local authority or healthcare trust for onward distribution to the young person in care, or to the person with parental responsibility for that young person. And the reason they are issued to our main named contact is we, the Share Foundation, obviously we cover every local authority within the United Kingdom. We don't hold addresses for young people whilst they're in care. So obviously the local authority would have that most up-to-date information, especially as young people can move quite regularly. So that's why letters are issued there. So the first letter is issued at 16 for a young person. Now, it will be for them to action themselves. So if they don't action it, we follow up. And a letter is then sent at 17 and a half again for the young person. And it will be again for them, the young person, to action. Now, status change letters. Now, Status change letters obviously are generated through our system following the database submission. So when a database submission is received from a local authority, say for example if a young person has been returned to parents, placed under special guardianship or adopted, that would need to be detailed in that submission so that these status change letters can be generated and then obviously sent on to our main name contact for onward distribution to either the young person or the person with parental responsibility now. Again, it's really important that those letters are issued so that the accounts can be in the hands of the correct people. Also, just a quick note there, in relation to status change letters, if you've got the very unfortunate situation of a young person being deceased, you would need to let us know that they haven't just left care, that the young person has obviously passed away, because we don't want an inappropriate status change letter being issued to the family or adoptive family or special guardian in those situations. It's obviously a very difficult situation anyway, and we don't want to compound that. So just a reminder that on the data that you enter is really important. And then obviously we also have letters in relation to young people who are approaching 18. Now, this is where a young person is paid a cheque, a payment, and this is where a young person would be eligible for a junior ISA, but they're submitted to the Share Foundation following their 12 months in consecutive care with no breaks, but they're about 17 and 10 months. At 17 and 10 months, we cannot open a junior ISA for them. There isn't enough time. So it would be that they will receive that payment for £200. However, just to warn you at the moment that the Share Foundation are currently reviewing this process and hoping to change it to online payments, making checks redundant, which would probably be a thing that most people would benefit from, especially as young people don't even seem to know what checks are. But this is already in place for our retro payments where a young person is over 18 and is entitled to that payment as well. So we keep an eye on the process. Now, understanding the different links. Now, in those letters, these links will appear for young people. And it's really important that the young person completes the link that is in the letter to them. So obviously, if a young person is eligible for a junior ISA, then they will need, their letter will tell them to follow this link, My JISA. So this is relevant for a young person who's in care or has been in care who is eligible for a junior ISA. Then the next link is My CTF. Now this is relevant for a young person who has been in care or is in care who has a child trust fund where we, the Share Foundation, have become the registered contact following your data submission from the local authority advising there is no one in a position of PR for that young person. So we obviously then have the account details. So that's that link. And then the final link that we have is Find CTF. So this is again relevant for a young person in care or who has been in care who is eligible for a child trust fund, but where the local authority or healthcare trust have advised that there is a responsible adult, meaning we, the Share Foundation, have not taken control of the account and we have no visibility of the account. It's really important that the young people are actioning these letters and these links themselves because it's their data, it's their information. We also use the Find CTF link for young people nationwide who have not been in care, who are aged over 16 and born in the Child Trust Funds with a national insurance number. And that's part of our Child Trust Fund recovery campaign. Once again, the links are only for the young people to complete, not for parents, not for guardians, not for third parties. Now, this is really important that they are doing this themselves. And I know that there is a tendency to want to support by completing the application for them. Now, I can understand why people feel like that, but it can cause more problems in the long run. So say, for example, a support worker has completed the online application for the young person, and the support workers use their email address. Now, in the case of Find CTF, the response is sent to the young person via email. So that email is going to be going to that support worker. If that support worker then leaves, moves on, it's in the ether then, it cannot be retrieved. So that's really important that young people are completing these letters, these links themselves. And again, status change letter is sent for a young person who's left care, and if under 16, will advise the parent or guardian of what they need to do to take control of an account. They do not use the above links, so please don't send these links, any letters with these links, to parents or guardians. If you're unsure, always give your local liaison authority contact here a shout, drop them an email, give them a call, and if they will always be able to advise you. But status change letters are completely different to the links. So if a status change letter is for a young person who says 5, they can't do these links until they're 16, and a parent can't complete them for them either. So understanding the different links. Well, obviously, we've said that the length was very specific, but if you're in doubt, or if you haven't got visibility of the letter that the young person has been issued, obviously you can always speak to your main named contact in the first instance, because they would have copy of that letter, but you could use Find CTF. Now, this is a free service that the Share Foundation offer, and I really want to reiterate the point here that it is a free service for locating a child trust fund. Now, there are companies out there that are charging up to 35% of what is in a young person's account to locate the account for them. We, the Share Foundation, are a free service, and I really want to say that that's important. HMRC also offer a free service, but please be aware there are companies, organisations out there that are charging young people up to 35% of what is in their account to locate it for them. A young person does not need to pay to locate a child trust fund. Okay. So the process for a young person locating the account. So obviously, once the letter's been sent out, the young person then completes the online form using the relevant link provided to them. Now, they will then receive an acknowledgement email, and then if a printed form is required for Find CTF only, that would be then sent to the young person if required. Now, when we send out the emails forms for Find CTF, the process obviously is they complete the form online. That's put through our database. If we have been unable via Find CTF to make a match with the tracing group, with the account providers that we work with, then we need to go to HMRC, which is why this form would be emailed to a young person. The young person will need then to print and sign and then post the form back to us. Obviously, we have a free post address, and if needed, we can always print the form and send it to the young person as well. The young person, if they have printed and signed it, they can also then scan that document as a PDF and send it to us via email. But please note, we do not accept electronic signatures. It has to be the handwritten signature of the young person. Now, obviously, you can see that we do an automated process, checking forms against our in-care database, first of all. And where the Share Foundation are a registered contact and a match, a young person is found, we would send that young person a letter. So when young people are completing My JISA and My CTF, the response is always via letter. And then where we have Find CTF, it's a response from the Share Foundation via email, and they should then receive a letter with HMRC, from HMRC directly if we've had to go on to HMRC. So obviously then claiming the account. So when the young person receives that letter or email, it'll tell them some really important things. Now, it'll tell them who their account provider is and their account provider's contact details. More often than not, there will be the telephone number. So the young person's going to have to pick up the phone and speak to the account provider to claim the account in the first instance. I know that sometimes emails are provided. Sometimes those emails are actually links that the account providers have provided us with that will take a young person to a page that's information for them to read. So we always advise young people in the first instance, pick up the phone, and then the account provider will talk them through the process. So obviously the young person is going to have to provide some information, and that's how they will then talk to the account provider. Now, an account provider might advise, especially in the cases where a young person's completed MyCTF, where that the account is no longer with them because it has been moved. Now, we've obviously given the young person that information because we've received that information from HMRC, and HMRC only provide us with the information of where the account provider was set up with. Yes, Rena.
I just want to go back to, sorry, Shah, I just want to go back to the bit where we said that we cannot accept electronic signatures, but we cannot also we cannot accept photographs of the applications, because a lot of the times we do get young people just taking a picture of the application form and send it to us. So that's another thing that we do obviously cannot accept that. So if that can be raised when you talk to the young people, if that can be mentioned, then that would stop them and stop us going backwards and forwards. So if they send the correct one, we've actually got the correct one and we can start processing. So it saves a bit of time as well. Thank you.
Lovely.
That's all I needed to say. Thank
you.
No
worries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
So obviously, if an account provider is telling a young person that the account has been moved, the young person needs to obviously then ask some questions like, does that account provider know who that account, where it's been moved to? Hopefully, there might be some records, but sometimes that they might not have that information. Now, obviously, an account provider will, if that's the case, obviously we would do as much as we can to support, but it's probably that in that case that the young person is going to have to go back to HMRC directly for HMRC to try and find out who the account is now held with. So obviously an account provider isn't going just to say that you can have your account. They are going to do verification checks. So the young person, when they speak to the account provider, is going to have to prove they are who they say they are. And they will probably want to see some ID documentation from them. Now, those IDs, the documentation that each provider accepts can differ. So the provider will tell them exactly what they need. And more often than not, they are also going to have to provide information that they have a bank account in their own name. This is especially relevant to 18 when a young person's wanting to access the funds. The account provider would pay electronically from their account into a young person's bank account that has the same name. So it's really important that that relationship is built between the account holder and the account provider. This is why if a young person's doing this at 16, they know straight away at 18 that the account provider is probably going to contact them directly and say, you're just about to turn 18. What do you want to do? Have you thought about what you want to do with your child trust fund? Have you thought about what you want to do with your savings? And that relationship is then built with them because at 18, obviously they can access that money. So if a young person's doing it, received a letter at 16 and has accessed this information, their relationship is built up with the account provider then. Now, we often find out that a young person hasn't got a bank account. And as a corporate parent, a local authority healthcare trust should be supporting a young person to open a bank account. We are aware that Metro Bank and NatWest are supporting young people in care and care leavers to make their journey of opening bank accounts slightly easier. So that's just a heads up, that's some useful information if a young person actually doesn't have an account already. So things to consider. The young person needs to complete the online application themselves, not a third party. Now, obviously, and not the local authority either. Now, obviously, you can support them. You can help them set up their own email addresses. That's going to be something they're going to need in the future anyway, so it's a good thing for them to have. But please do not do it for them. It has to be the young person's details, not that of an LA or a third party. Now, a change of contact details of a young person. So obviously sometimes this happens where a young person has applied to us, and obviously if they are in care, we are aware that they can be moved. If we need to, and we're trying to write to them by letter and they're telling us they've not received a letter, they will need to contact us via email from the email address that is used on the online application. So this is why it's really important that it's a young person's details, because obviously if it isn't, we've then got to go to say, we can't change the details. So it causes problems, which is why we're really stressing that the young people need to complete them themselves. We often have problems where young people will come to us to claim an account, and the name they provide to us differs to the name that we have been supplied by the local authority. This goes back to data. So it's really important from day one, when young people are being submitted to us by the local authority on that LA submission, that it is the legal name that is submitted to the Share Foundation from day one. This will ensure, obviously, if we are being asked to open a junior ISA for a young person, it's being opened in the correct legal name. And obviously, if it's a child trust fund and we're being asked to take control, again, that's ensuring that we are claiming and taking control of the correct account, because obviously that's when the information HMRC would provide to us. And also, it makes claiming the account for the young person at the end of the day a lot easier if the names are all matching. Now, obviously, with letters from HMRC, there are three sort of different options that of letters they can receive. They can be told who their account provider is. They can be told that HMRC need more information from them. And more often than not, when HMRC are requesting that, the young person is going to have to write to HMRC directly and provide them with a photocopy of their birth certificate. If they've been adopted, they're going to provide a photocopy of their birth certificate and their adoption order. HMRC are very specific on their letters about what information they need. And it could be something as simple as the young person is born on the same day and they've got the same name as somebody else. But if a young person, when they've completed the forms, have just told us, for example, that their name is Jack Smith, you can imagine how many Jack Smiths can be born on one day. Whereas if a young person is very specific when they actually do the online application and tell us that they are Jack Edward George Smith, for example, it makes that journey easier for HMRC because they've got that information. So again, you can get that response. Now, you can also get a response from HMRC where a young person is being told that they're not eligible for an account. And this can be for different reasons. And again, HMRC are very specific on their responses as to why a young person is not eligible for an account. And one of the scenarios is that they could have been born overseas. For example, they are a unaccompanied asylum-seeking child. Now, if they've definitely not got a child trust fund, the Share Foundation can open a junior ISA, assuming that the young person fits the eligibility, even if they were born in the child trust fund years, because that's obviously what would happen, but they obviously have to have met the criteria set out to have a junior ISA opened for them. So once again, if a young person is writing to HMRC, do not send photocopies. Do not send originals, only send photocopies. HMRC are not very good at returning originals, okay? And nobody wants to lose a birth certificate because they're expensive. So those documents are important and precious, so photocopies only. Now, we are aware that there are some known problems with providers. And this is why it's really important when a young person receives that email from us or a letter from us, that that young person puts that letter somewhere safe, that they know that they've got it. They keep that email somewhere safe so they know who their account provider is. Now, obviously, we are aware that sometimes a provider may verify or go through the verification process, and one of the questions will be, what was the postal address that you lived at when the account was opened? Well, most people probably can't remember where they lived 18 years ago, and obviously this is really prevalent for young people in care because there can be legal reasons why they might not need to know that information. So obviously we are working with account providers to overcome this situation, and a lot of providers are listening to us and have taken steps to change that, but obviously it can still be an obstacle. And a young person might actually require further support from an LA if there are limited documents for them to proceed with verification. So they might need support in how to get a passport or driving license, depending on what the account provider is asking for. Now, obviously, limited capacity, and obviously we are aware that there are young people in care that have limited capacity, and there is a great deal of issues around young people with limited capacity claiming child trust funds. Now, many account providers could ask for a court order for deputyship or lasting power of attorney, which we are aware can be expensive. But we would suggest that the person who is the appointee or deputy for the young person does still contact the account provider, because many are using common sense in terms of helping with claiming the accounts. Now, obviously, that appointee or deputy is going to need to know where the account is. I would really like to point out at this point, an appointee or deputy cannot use Find CTF link to access this information, because the subject request form requires the young person's signature. And if a young person has limited capacity, that link cannot be used. The appointee or deputy would have to write to HMRC directly, providing photocopied documentation that they have the right to access this information, and HMRC would have to advise them at that point. Obviously, if a young person is in care and we, the Share Foundation, have been the registered contact, obviously we can support there. But when you go to the account provider can ask for this documentation as well. So you would need to be aware of that for appointees. And our understanding is that HMRC actually require a deputyship court order to actually give out this information. So we would suggest an ad hoc approach in terms of how the Share Foundation or HMRC could assist with locating the account. And as I've said, we're more likely to be able to help where we've been the registered contact, but we would probably also need to speak to our main named contact at the LA in these circumstances. So that's what we would suggest. And obviously, as I mentioned, Find CTF is not to be used in those circumstances. Now, a young person in prison. Now, if the Share Foundation have been the registered contact, we would be able to support in this regard, and we take sort of an ad hoc approach. And we do have a specialist here, my colleague Dagmar Taylor, at the Share Foundation, who obviously deals with a lot of these situations with a young person in prison. But where we have not been the registered contact for the account, the young person, whilst in prison, would probably have to write to HMRC directly for this information and would need to be supported. And then obviously, if a young person has passed away. So if a young person has passed away, and I know I touched on this earlier, if the Share Foundation have been the registered contact for a deceased young person, then the process is for the LA to submit them on their date of submission as deceased. This will then produce the relevant letters that will be sent to our main named contact in the normal way for onward distribution to the beneficiary. Please be specific, as I mentioned earlier. Please do not just put not in care any longer, because the status change letter would be sent, and that isn't appropriate and could cause upset. Obviously, if the young person is not in care anymore because they've turned 18, or they have, been returned to parents, etc. previously, please email the Share Foundation LA Liaison representative by the main contact to advise of the deceased status. That would be sufficient for the Share Foundation to then generate appropriate letters to be sent out to our main named contact once again. So, are there any questions that you'd like to ask about anything? Or is it all quite clear? We can supply copies of today's slides. Absolutely not a problem if anybody would like those. If you want to pop your name in the chat and we can get those to you, that would be lovely. But otherwise, that's kind of it for today. And I hope it's clear. And obviously, if you do have any questions, you can always email us. Myself and Rena sort of respond to most of these, but our email address is info@sharefound.org, and we actually do like to answer the phone. So whilst a lot we get that told a lot, oh my goodness, you've actually answered. So we obviously do answer the phone as well. So if you need us on the phone, our telephone number is 01296 310 400. We are happy to talk on the phone. And if you're ever in doubt about anything, you can always check with us first or check with your main named contact. And we would always, advise as much as we can.
Thank you. Stop sharing now, but thank you very much. Hope everyone's found that really useful. Thank you, Rena and Sian, for being with me today here. And
we've got a question, Sue.
Oh, do we?
So Susan's asked us, how long can children use the Find CTF link after they turn 18? If they were born in the Child Trust Fund years, there is no time limit, because that account will remain with the account provider until that account is claimed. So if a young person was born after the 1st of September 2002, so if they were born the 3rd of September, the 4th of September 2002, they can still use that Find CTF link.
And we get a lot of young adults who are using all of the links, actually. So, yeah, it's no problem whatsoever. There's no restriction. Yeah. It just needs to be the young people, purely because it's the young people's information, as Sian has mentioned. So then, we can offer that information back to the young person, because we know that, that it's being delivered back to the young people. But I think the important thing is that they can be supported. So, please don't think you can't support them. It's just that we have found so many cases now where young people have come to us to say, we never responded back, and my social worker did a form or what have you. And then when we look back, it's not their email, it's been the social worker's email, and then maybe the social worker's left then, and so then the young person never gets that information. So we're trying to make sure we can direct the information to the young person as quickly as we are able, really.
I was just going to say, we have had quite a lot of media attention in the last, I'd say probably year and a half, both around child trust funds, but also for young people who were in care, who were born before the Child Trust Fund years, who were eligible for accounts under the Looked After Children scheme. So a young person, if they were born after the 3rd of after the 3rd of January 1994, they could be eligible for a junior ISA, and quite a lot of that is age group are still claiming accounts because they've heard about it. Obviously, something has broken down where when they left care, they say that they haven't been told that they had an account, or they might have been told that they had an account and completely forgot that they had an account. But we are also experiencing queries from young people who are obviously what I like to call older young people.
I mean, another seminar to go to is seminar 7, what happens at 18. So it's a little bit like this one, actually. There's some overlap on it. but it also covers our bilateral agreements, which we'd like to stress have been really useful. Impact of those has been a significant, and because of the bilateral agreement where we can obtain and share data between the local authority and the Share Foundation after the age of 18, we've been able to write out to young people who are now young adults in their 20s to advise them that they have an account that hasn't been claimed. We've had the uptake really from all the letters that have been sent so far. 54% have been actioned, and for junior ISAs, and 73% for the child trust funds. So that bilateral agreement, I would encourage local authorities to sign up to learn more. Dagmar Taylor at the Share Foundation would be able to help you. But what happens at 18, we'll give you more information, and that's seminar 7.
Go on, Rena. You're waving.
Yes, sorry. Right, I just want to go back to the electronic signatures, and when we do send them that email, obviously if they cannot print out the form, they can email us back, and we would be happy to send that printout to them, as long as it comes from the registered email that's on the form, and obviously it has to be posted to the registered address. However, a lot of the times young people have done an application months back and then they've moved. So what then they need to do is actually email us from the registered email saying this was their previous address and this is our new address, and then we would amend the records, and then we can still send the form out to the young person to the new address. So if they can't print, it's not a problem. They can actually email us and we will send that form out to them. And then they must check all the details on the form. If there's any bits where they feel that, oh God, we've made a mistake, they can cross it off. It's not a problem. Sometimes they're scared to sort of cross the the information that's on the form, thinking, oh, I can't do that. But no, they can cross it off and they can put the correct details, and obviously ensuring that it's signed and ticked at the back, because that's HMRC will not accept any forms without Part D completed. So my point being is we do send out printouts if they can't print. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a really good point. The other thing I'd like to raise here as well is that there are some young people that will not have an account because they were approaching 18, as Sian mentioned, mentioned about approaching 18 earlier in the presentation. So where the local authority have submitted them and they're quite close to 18, it's only when we get the monies in from the Department for Education can we actually pay that young person. So there can be that sort of timescale between the submission and the actual payment being received. Upon the payment being received, if the young person is 17 and 10 months, then we cannot open a junior ISA because it's deemed that it would not be a benefit to the young person to do so because of the setup costs, etc. So we want to make sure they receive the £200. So at that age, we would then send a cheque. So the My JISA may or should pick up now the fact that a cheque has been issued. A young person may get an email about a cheque, and any queries that a young person has where they haven't had a response to a My JISA, please get them to call the Share Foundation, because we can then try and help them more. So if they haven't, for some reason or other, it's come back that they don't have one, we can't match it, then get them to call us and we will try to find out why. It might be their name has changed and it's not the name that we've got, and they don't know maybe that. So there's lots of reasons why sometimes the link doesn't work in terms of the matching. And we really would really encourage people to say to young people, right, okay, so you've had the things aren't matching, the details aren't matching, or you've had no response, then let's get on to the Share Foundation, give us a call and we will help, we will investigate. And I really want to stress this because we do not want to leave these young people without the money that they're quite entitled to. So thank you. And I think from us, it's definitely, we've finished now. If you have got any more questions, we will stay until the last person leaves. If you want to put something else in the chat now, please do. If you want to email us, please do that. If you want to call us, please do that. But we are always here for support. You should all have, as a local authority or trust, your your representative from the Share Foundation, so do use them. They're always very happy to help. So yeah, thank you very much indeed for coming, and I hope it's been a use to you. We'll now stop recording as well.